Our brief was to research and produce a title sequence based on a specific genre in which includes typical and maybe non-typical codes and conventions for a new film. The title for a film is The Fantasagirls. We realised early on that weather was important in our piece. It could determine the mood of our piece, so it was essential that we filmed when it was sunny. Unfortunately, we filmed in the winter, which meant it was hard to film when it was light and we couldn't always stick to our filming schedule. The shots playing are of our old title sequence. After we showed it to the class, we received feedback that they didn't understand the narrative and that we needed to rethink the shots. This made us change the whole title sequence, but stuck to the same idea. Considering our target audience is quite young, we decided Working Title would be a good distributor. Although the distributor did not make any of our ideal film choices, they still distribute films that fit into our genre. We believe that they'll be suited as they have experience in how to sell a film, such as its audience. They are also a recognisable British company and therefore will definitely meet our pitch. Working Title is also good for a film, as it distributes many other different films to show its wide knowledge of films such as comedies and romances. An example of this is Love Actually, and an example of an action film that could relate back to ours is Green Zone. Stan Lee, Marvel comics writer, explains what he thinks of women superheroes. He believes it's not so much of a lack of female superheroes, but more of a lack of female superheroes worth reading. Our film is going to challenge that statement. Throughout the creating process, we changed the storyboards around 3 to 4 times. This was because we wasn't happy with the shots and the characters. At first, the shots were based around Zorok rather than the superhero. We came up with a very specific audience of young girls and a genre of superheroes. Our title sequence begins with each girl waking up individually and getting ready. The title sequence ends with the girls meeting to symbolise them coming together as a group. This is much like Avengers, where some of our inspiration came from. Our film stuck to the binary opposition found in superhero films, the villain versus the hero, or in this case, heroines. Throughout the title sequence, there is fast-paced music and fast cuts to fit in with the genre to attract the audience. For the first 20 seconds of the title sequence, the music is quite low as girls are waking up. The music is then turned up by Giggle Girl, Megan, on the stereo in the sequence. When this happens, the cuts becomes a lot faster and fits in with the genre. The film easily presents typical codes and conventions of a superhero film and how they would be communicated within my title sequence. This consists of upbeat music and typography that looked magical. We took some title sequences into consideration when making our title sequence. For example, we kept the titles in the usual order and kept the cinematography the same. We tried a low angle to make us look powerful. Also included within our title sequence is fast cuts to fit in with the music, so everything is fast. We decided to keep the codes and conventions to try and keep the usual stereotypes, as it would help to communicate the genre of the film to the audience and make it recognisable in the world of media. The initial music idea came from the title sequence in The Incredibles. This is because, like our title sequence, The Incredibles is very fast-paced. For example, when the character kicks at the screen, the tempo in the song goes up, and likewise, in ours, as Megan turns up the music, the action begins. We challenge the stereotypical image of male superheroes. This makes the girls have more dominance, which it fits in with the target audience. We used an establishing shot during the last scene to show all the girls coming together. This worked well, as it shows all the girls coming from different angles and eventually coming together. Social groups have been represented through girls. We tried to make a positive view on girls and to show that they aren't all damsel in distress and can be the superhero. Featured in our title sequence is the stereotypical normal group of girls. The stereotype was constructed and portrayed to the audience through the use of mise-en-scene and costuming. The girls are shown getting up in the morning, getting ready and eating breakfast. This sends a message to the audience that any normal girl or boy can be. However, in the last shots we see the characters in their costumes showing the normal codes and conventions of a typical superhero. For the costumes, we printed each name onto the separate t-shirts. The shirts were in different colours for each girl to fit in with their power, and the same with the typography. The Fantasagirls relates back to Laura Mulvey's theory of women being only on TV for male gaze. This also can be represented in film. In our title sequence, it is presented when the girls are shown in tight costumes and we see part of their body as they're getting ready in the morning. This is a stereotypical representation and therefore shows again another stereotype that our film presents. On our title sequence survey, 100% of the people I asked from the survey said that they enjoyed the title sequence. However, only 28.5% said they'd actually go see the film. Like I've said earlier, our film does represent Marvel's idea, but not as bad as films such as Batman, where Catwoman is presented in all tight-fitting clothes and in the posters with her back to the audience to show her behind. Our last shot is of the girls facing towards the front. This shows their power and not representing them sexually. From the preliminary task, I have gained and shown that in the title sequence skills that I have not experienced before. Though dialogue can be important, I found that it's not always needed. In our title sequence, we use shots and music to determine the mood. Weather was key in our sequence, as if it was bad then it would change the mood of the sequence. This was hard for us to find a sunny day in the middle of winter, so we couldn't always film on the days we had planned. I've learnt now that storyboards are an important part in filmmaking. It gives you a guideline of what to follow and focuses you to know the shots and location before filming. This helps you get the best quality of shot. During this process, I have learnt some new technologies through the practice of editing and cinematography. As I was made in charge of the props, I had to use programs like Photoshop and learnt different ways to make something look realistic in the world of media. An example of this would be the newspapers. When using Final Cut Pro, I found it difficult. Therefore, when editing, I would help suggest what to cut and someone in our group would handle the program. I managed to improve my cinematography skills very well, as I was able to focus on how different shots can create meaning, as it can show someone's authority. For instance, in the last shots, we had shots of each superhero at a low angle. I feel we have made progress in our group. We have changed quite a lot from the beginning and still managed to pull it all together. I feel all of our group has now feel more confident with new technologies and would be comfortable using any next